My mom told me to figure it out while I was flat on my back in a hospital bed with a shattered leg, a wrecked shoulder, and a 6-week-old baby at home who still woke up every 3 hours. Those were her exact words. Figure it out. She said them while standing in a boarding line for a 12-day spa cruise to the Bahamas. I could hear the ship's horn over the phone. I could hear people laughing, glasses clinking, announcements echoing over the PA system. And I could hear my mother, very clearly, choosing a vacation over her injured daughter and newborn grandchild without even pausing to think about it. My name is Julia Carter. I'm 31 years old, and until October 3rd of last year, I genuinely believed that family meant something, that blood mattered, that when you really, truly needed your mother, she would come. I was wrong. Let me take you back to that Tuesday, October 3rd, 2:47 in the afternoon. I was driving home from the veterinary clinic where I work in Bowling Green, Kentucky. I'm the billing specialist there, the one who fights with insurance companies so people's pets can get their surgeries covered. I'd left work a bit early because my neighbor, Mrs. Alvarez, was watching my daughter Lily, and she had a dentist appointment at 5. My husband Mark was 45 minutes away in Elizabethtown, installing an AC unit in some office building. The plan for the day was boring and perfect. Pick up Lily, start dinner, wait for Mark to come home. That plan lasted right up until the intersection at Scottsville Road and Campbell Lane. I never saw the delivery truck. I heard it, this low, angry roar of an engine that didn't belong there, because my light was green. I remember that part like a photograph burned into my memory, the green light. Then there was the sound of metal folding, glass exploding, and my world turned into a washing machine, spinning and spinning and spinning. The truck plowed straight into my driver's side door, doing at least 40 miles an hour. My sad little 2013 Corolla with 140,000 miles never stood a chance. Neither did my body. I woke up in an ambulance. Pain isn't even the right word for what I felt. It was like my entire right leg was one long white hot wire from hip to knee. My left shoulder felt like it was hanging on by a thread. Every breath stabbed at something deep inside my chest. The paramedic kept saying, "Stay with me, Julia. You're okay. Help is here." All I could think was, where's Lily? Who has Lily? They took me to the medical center at Bowling Green, room for 17. I will die remembering that number. The doctor spoke calmly, like he was reading off a grocery list. Right femur fracture, needs surgery and a metal rod. Dislocated left shoulder, 3 cracked ribs. Then he said the line that drowned out everything else. Recovery will be at least 6 to 8 weeks. You won't be able to safely care for an infant by yourself during that time. 6 to 8 weeks. I called Mark first. He answered on the second ring. When I told him what happened, his voice broke in a way I'd never heard before. "I'm coming," he said. "Just hang on. I'm on my way." Somehow, in the middle of his panic, he still had the presence of mind to drive and pick up Lily from Mrs. Alvarez before racing to the hospital. He walked into my room at 5:15, our tiny daughter bundled in one arm, my hand crushed in his other. He looked like he hadn't taken a full breath since I'd called. Mark could take 5 days off, and paid. That was it. HVAC work doesn't come with generous anything. If he disappeared longer than a week, they'd just give his jobs to someone else. Our mortgage was due on the 15th, $1,340. We had around $4,000 in savings. No disability insurance. No backup plan. We were already underwater, and I hadn't even gone into surgery yet. That's when I called my mother. My mother is Brenda Lawson. She's 59. Remarried to a man named Roger who treats her like she's breakable china. He never raises his voice, pulls out her chair at dinner, funds her obsession with throw pillows and granite countertops. They live in a 4-bedroom house in Louisville that she photographs obsessively for Facebook. Sunday brunch vibes, backyard oasis. You know the type. For the last 3 years, I'd been sending her $400 every single month to help with property taxes. 3 years of that, I'd also sent her $2,800 3 months earlier for an emergency roof repair she promised she'd pay back by September. She did in single quotes T. She answered my call on the 5th ring. Immediately, I knew she was somewhere expensive. Loud music, laughter, echoing announcements. It sounded like an airport bar had mated with a nightclub. I told her everything. The accident, the injuries, that I'd be having surgery that night, that I couldn't even sit up in bed, let alone lift my baby. And I asked her, begged her, to come stay with us in Bowling Green for a week or two. Just until I'm not a hazard with Lily, I said. Just until I can walk with a walker, please, she sighed. Not scared, not worried. And I. Julia, she said. I'm in Miami. We're about to board the Ocean Harmony. I've had this cruise booked for 8 months, 12 days. Spa package, balcony room. You can't expect me to throw all of that away. I can't walk, I said. I have a newborn. Mark can't take more than 5 days off. I need help. She was quiet for half a second, and I thought, stupidly, that maybe something human was waking up in her. Then she said, in that flat, clipped tone I knew too well, you always land on your feet. Tessa never puts me in these positions. You'll figure it out. There it was, the comparison to my younger sister Tessa, the golden child who has never kept a job more than 6 months, but somehow never lands on her face. You'll figure it out. And then, they're calling our boarding group. I really have to go. She hung up. I lay in that hospital bed, morphine pump clicking gently beside me, leg in traction, shoulder strapped, staring up at the stained ceiling tile above my head. There was a watermark that looked unsettlingly like my mother's profile, chin tilted up, unimpressed. I stared at that stain for straight hours waiting for surgery. I'm not saying it was a sign. I'm not saying it wasn't. While I was in the operating room, having a metal rod hammered into my femur, my mother was probably taking a boomerang of champagne clinks on the Lido deck, while I learned to use a bedpan because I couldn't walk 10 steps to a toilet. She was probably wrapped in seaweed at the ship's spa, while my husband fumbled through being a brand new dad, home nurse, cook, and full-time employee, sleeping 3 hours a night if he was lucky. She was posting things like self-care isn't selfish and pouring into my own cup for a change. I watched every post from my hospital bed. Each one cut a little chunk out of something soft inside me. But those days also did something else. They shoved truths in my face I'd been very carefully looking away from for years. The money, the favoritism, the way I always figured it out so she didn't have to. By the time they wheeled me back from surgery, something in me had shifted. Not snapped, shifted. Like a bone finally pushed back where it always should have been. I didn't know what I was going to do about any of it yet. But I knew one thing for sure. I was done being the daughter who always found a way so everyone else could stay comfortable. If you're still with me, take a second to hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. It helps more than you think and I read every single one. Okay? Back to that hospital room. The numbers were brutal. Mark's 5 unpaid days went by in a blur of sleepless nights and cafeteria coffee. After that, the reality was simple. Either he went back to work, or we didn't pay our mortgage. We had about $4,200 in savings. Mortgage was $1,340. That left $2,860 to live on for 6 to 8 weeks while I couldn't work. And I couldn't safely be alone with Lily in Bowling Green. The going rate for an overnight nurse was $28 an hour. To have someone come from 8 at night to 6 in the morning, 10 hours, that was $280 per night. Almost $2,000 a week. $2,000 a week so I wouldn't drop my baby because my shoulder was out of commission and my leg was held together with hardware. At 2 in the morning. With my good arm, I scrolled through care.com, eyes swimming from pain meds, and found her. Mabel King, 67, retired NICU nurse from Elizabethtown. Her profile said specialized in high-stress situations and complicated family dynamics. I remember thinking, but did you end up in the right inbox? Mabel started the next night. $280 gone in one swipe of a debit card. To buy that time, I canceled our anniversary dinner reservation. I returned the cordless drill set I'd bought Mark for his birthday and got back $173. Then I did the thing that really hurt. I sold my grandmother's pearl earrings on Facebook Marketplace. They were the only thing I had from her, the only woman in my family who had ever made me feel seen and safe. Her hands had worn those pearls to church every Sunday for 40 years. She'd pressed them into my palm at her kitchen table when I was 19 and said, "These are for you, baby girl, because you're the one who'll take care of them." Now, a woman from Nashville drove up, counted out $180 in 20s in my hospital room, and walked away with them. I watched her taillights disappear through my window and felt something inside me harden into stone. While all this was happening, my mother was at the captain's table in some glittery dress, posting living my best life with Roger smiling stiffly beside her day for in the hospital. I made one more call I really didn't want to make. My sister, Tessa, she answered like she was being heavily inconvenienced. Reality TV blasted in the background. I kept it short. Car accident, broken leg, can't care for Lily alone. Mom is on a cruise. We need help. Tessa actually laughed. A little disbelieving snort. "Jules," she said, "you know I'm not a baby person. Besides, I'm going through a lot right now. I need to focus on my mental health." "What's going on?" I asked, already regretting it. Her boyfriend Ryan, 24, vape shop employee, 2-month relationship, had broken up with her. She described it like a bereavement. She said she couldn't possibly take care of a newborn in this state. I wanted to remind her that when she moved apartments last year, I'd driven 3 hours to help. 6 months pregnant and barely able to bend without my back seizing. Instead, I said okay and hung up. Later, I'd see on Instagram that her relationship with Ryan lasted exactly 63 days. She cried harder when she lost his employee discount than when she lost him. Day 6, Mark went back to work. He looked like someone was physically peeling his fingers off my hospital bed rail. But we'd sat there with a calculator on my tray table, and there was simply no version where he stayed, and we didn't lose the house. Day 8, I was transferred to a rehab facility across town. New building, same cheap ceiling tiles. My physical therapist was a relentlessly upbeat guy named Connor. He took my broken femur as some sort of personal challenge. "We're going to get you walking," he'd say. "You're tougher than you think." He'd say this while I tried not to pass out from standing up for 45 seconds. His optimism was exhausting. It also kept me from giving up. That's when my stepfather Roger called. Roger Lawson, 62, retired regional manager for a trucking company, lives on spreadsheets and routine. The kind of man who says ma'am to waitresses and actually means it respectfully. I've always liked Roger, mostly because he stayed out of the chaos that is Brenda and her daughters. The cruise was over. They were back in Louisville. He had seen a Facebook post from my Aunt Denise asking for prayers for my recovery. He sounded confused. Embarrassed. Brenda said you had a little fender bender, he said. Some whiplash, but nothing serious. I didn't realize. "Julia, if you want, I can drive down tonight. I'll be there by dinner." I told him no, not because I didn't appreciate it. I did deeply, but Roger wasn't the one who'd lied. He wasn't the one who owed me anything. I wasn't going to draft him into cleaning up my mother's mess. I had Mabel at night. I had Connor in the day. I could get through this. But after I hung up, something clicked into place. My mother hadn't just chosen a cruise over me. She'd also rewritten reality for her husband so he wouldn't see what she'd done. In her version of events, I had a sore neck and a flair for drama. That was new information, and it changed everything. Then came the family grapevine. My Aunt Denise, my mom's older sister, 63, widowed, lives in Lexington. She called. She's always been the peacekeeper, the one who changes the subject when things get tense. Not this time. Her voice had an edge I'd never heard. She told me what Brenda had been saying to the extended family, that I was exaggerating for attention, that I had a husband. So why was I acting like a single mother? That some people just love to be victims. I listened. I didn't defend myself. There was no point. My mother had already written the script where she's the reasonable martyr and I'm the unstable and grateful child. But then Denise said something quietly. We need to talk in person. There are things I should have told you a long time ago. I'm so sorry I waited. 2 days later, she showed up at the rehab center with a tuna casserole and a manila folder that looked heavy for its size. She put the casserole on the little tray table and never touched it. She just sat in the plastic chair and looked at me with this mix of guilt and resolve. She started by apologizing over and over. Then she said, think back to March 2021 when your dad died. My father, Thomas Cole, died of a heart attack in his sleep, 61, gone between one breath and the next. I remembered every second of that week. The fog, the funeral home, the casket brochures, my mother handling all the logistics, me and Tessa just trying to stand without breaking. I never thought to ask about money. Grief was loud enough. It drowned out everything practical. And honestly, I trusted my mother to handle those things. That was my first mistake. Denise had a different perspective. Years earlier, my dad had shown her his life insurance policy. He didn't trust Brenda with money and wanted someone outside the marriage to know his wishes. Just in case your sister tries something, he told her the policy was $80,000, split evenly between his 2 daughters. $40,000 to me, $40,000 to Tessa, not to Brenda. To us. Denise watched my face as that sunk in. She saw it register that I had never seen a check like that, not even close. When I tentatively asked my mother months after the funeral if there had been any insurance, she'd said, tired and put upon, there was some. But funerals are so expensive, honey. It all went to that. I believed her. Why wouldn't I believe my own mother? The funeral had cost $8,500. I knew that number because I was there for every meeting. I even pitched in $2,000 of my own savings because Brenda said she was overwhelmed and couldn't I help? Just this once. $8,500, not $40,000. Denise opened the folder and slid a stack of papers toward me. Copies of the policy my dad had given her a year before he died. Beneficiary 1, Julia Carter, $40,000. Beneficiary 2, Tessa Cole, $40,000. Signatures, policy number, payout terms, all official, all clear. Your dad wanted you taken care of, she said. Both of you. He didn't want Brenda having control of that money. Denise had tried to ask Brenda about it right after the funeral, casually, just making sure everything was handled properly. Brenda pulled her aside at a barbecue and delivered the threat. If you keep asking questions, you are no longer family. You don't come to my house. You don't see my grandchildren. You're out. For a lonely, widowed woman whose only real community was family gatherings, that threat worked. She shut up and hated herself for it until she saw the Facebook post about my accident and my mother's cruise and realized her silence had just given Brenda more room to keep hurting me. Then she couldn't keep quiet anymore. There was still the obvious question. If Tessa had clearly gotten her $40,000, she paid cash for a used Kia 6 months after Dad died and bragged nonstop about it. Where was mine? Denise didn't know exactly, but she had a theory. It involved a Christmas 2 years ago at Brenda and Roger's house, too much wine, and Brenda bragging in the kitchen as they cleaned up. Every smart woman needs a little something on the side that her husband doesn't know about, she'd said. My rainy day fund. Roger handles the boring money. But this is mine. At the time, Denise chalked it up to drunk boasting. Now, sitting in my sterile rehab room, the pieces slid together. My father's money, my inheritance, siphoned into a secret account Brenda's own husband didn't know existed. And that wasn't all. For years, Brenda had been complaining to Denise about Tessa's spending, the maxed out cards, the shopping therapy, the 20-something thousand in debt. Tessa couldn't even make minimum payments, so someone else was paying Brenda every month. for to $500. 2 years ago, round the time Denise refused to lend Brenda money to help Tessa out. Just until she gets back on her feet, I started sending my mother $400 a month for property taxes. The timing matched cleanly to be coincidence. I stared at Denise while she laid it out. My monthly help had been keeping my sister's credit from imploding. $400 a month for 3 years. That's $14,400, plus the fake roof repair, $2,800, plus the inheritance that should have been mine, $31,500 after funeral expenses, nearly $50,000 gone. Once you added it all up, I didn't cry. Maybe it was the meds. Maybe it was that deep down, I'd always sensed the imbalance, and finally having proof was almost a relief. At least I wasn't crazy. At least there was math to explain why I always felt so drained and yet so weirdly empty-handed. Denise squeezed my good hand. "Your dad would be furious," she said, "and so proud that you turned out nothing like her." Before she left, I asked her to mail me certified copies of the policy and anything else she had. She promised they'd be at the rehab facility within the week. At the door, she turned and added, "Your grandmother used to say Brenda peaked in high school. Homecoming court, 1983. It's been downhill skiing on flatland ever since." I actually laughed. It hurt my ribs, but I laughed. When she was gone, I lay there staring at yet another ceiling. Different building. Same feeling, and I started thinking not about payback, but about boundaries. The old me would have called my mother and detonated every bridge in a single, screaming phone call. The woman with a broken femur and a 6-week-old. She wanted something else. Not a scene, not revenge, just what belonged to her. The documents arrived on October 24th. Certified mail. I held them like they were fragile, even though they were just paper. Policy number. Beneficiaries, payout date. Then I did one more thing. I called the insurance company. I gave them my dad's policy number and my information. The rep was calm, polite, and confirmed everything Denise had said. Both checks, mine and Tessa's, were issued in April 2021. Both checks were cashed. From their standpoint, case closed. Except from mine, it was very much open. I did what I do when something doesn't add up. I opened my laptop and made a spreadsheet. Column R, money I'd given. Column B, what I'd gotten back. Column C, money that was never supposed to be Brenda's in the first place. 48 months of $400 transfers, $14,400, $2,800 for the roof repair, $31,500 inheritance after legitimate funeral costs. I stared at the total, $48,700. That's a down payment. That's prepaying daycare. That's an emergency cushion. Not back-to-back cruises and endless throw pillows money. Legally, the monthly transfers and the roof money would be considered gifts. I'd sent them voluntarily, even if I'd been lied to about why. But the inheritance, that was different. That was fraud. Clean and simple. So I made a decision. I wasn't going to argue over every nickel. I wasn't going to walk into a courtroom swinging 3 years of text messages and emotional labor. One number only, $31,500. My father's money, nothing else. Give Brenda a dozen things to argue about and she'd keep the fog machine going forever. One clean figure left her less room to dance. Then I waited for the right opening. November 1st. For the first time in 3 years, I did not send my mother $400. I didn't announce it, didn't warn her. I just went into my banking app, found the automatic transfer, and canceled it. It took about 30 seconds. 3 years of obligation, gone with a thumbprint and a taps. I knew Brenda wouldn't notice right away. She's not a check your account daily person. She's a complain about overdraft fees after the fact person, and her pride wouldn't let her ask me about it immediately. She'd wait, invent technical glitches, holiday delays, any excuse except the obvious one, that I'd finally stopped. In the meantime, life went on. November 8th. I walked into physical therapy with a cane instead of a walker. Connor clapped like I'd just run a marathon. "You're ahead of schedule," he said. "What's got you so motivated?" "Righteous anger," I told him, it's better than pre-workout. He laughed. I kind of meant it. That same week, I went back to the vet clinic part-time. 4 hours a day, sitting down. My coworkers had covered for me without complaining, sent flowers, and left my desk exactly how I'd left it. That's how normal people act when someone they care about gets hurt. They step in, they show up. They don't board cruise ships. November 12th. My phone lit up with Tessa's name. I hadn't spoken to her since her "I'm not a baby person" declaration. I answered. She needed $500. One of her cards had been declined at Nordstrom Rack, and she'd been mortified. Could I spot her? Just this once? She'd totally pay me back. For a second, I said nothing. Just sat there with the phone pressed to my ear. Years of automatic yeses sitting on my tongue like muscle memory. Then I said, calmly, I can't help you with that. She went from incredulous to irritated in 3 seconds. It's just 500, Julia. Don't be dramatic. I can't, I repeated. Silence, click. You'd think saying no was easy. It's 2 letters, 1 syllable. It felt like resetting a broken bone without anesthesia. Painful, necessary. November 19th, 7:47 in the evening. Mark was in the bathroom giving Lily a bath, making ridiculous animal noises while she kicked and squealed. Our house hummed with the soft sounds of an ordinary evening. My phone rang. Mom. Her name flashed on the screen. For the first time in my life, I looked at it and felt nothing. No dread, no jump of hope. Just a clear, cold stillness. I answered. She was syrupy sweet. Hi, honey. How's my girl? How's that baby? I've been meaning to call. Things have just been crazy. We did 3 minutes of surface talk. Weather, Roger's consulting business, a book club she joined. Not once did she mention the accident itself beyond a vague, how's your leg? Then, finally, we arrived where I knew we were headed. So, I noticed that little transfer you do every month didn't show up. Is everything okay with your bank? There it was, the reason for the sudden warmth. My bank's fine, I said. I turned off the transfer. There aren't going to be any more. Silence on her end. I could hear the whir of her mental gears. Why on earth would you do that? Light, laughing tone. The dangerous one. Because we need to talk about something else first, I said. Dad's life insurance. I laid it out like a billing code explanation. No drama, no adjectives. Just facts, policy, amount, beneficiaries, dates. That I'd never seen a cent, that Tessa had. That funeral costs didn't touch $40,000. That I'd confirmed with the insurer that my check was issued and cashed. I asked one question. Where is the $31,500 that belongs to me? She cycled through her entire survival toolkit. First came confusion. I don't remember the details. That was so long ago. You're mistaken. I have the documents in front of me, I said. And I spoke to the company. Then came blame. Has Denise been stirring this up? You know she's always envied me. She wants to turn you against me. This isn't about Aunt Denise, I said. It's about money Dad wanted his daughters to have, not his wife. Then justification. You have no idea how expensive all that was. There were so many fees, so much paperwork. Things got moved around. It wasn't done maliciously. We both know the funeral was $8,500, I said. I contributed to 1,000 of that myself. Then martyrdom and attack rolled into one. After everything I've done for you, raising you alone for years, sacrificing my own dreams, this is how you repay me. Accusing me of stealing? You've always been ungrateful, Julia. Always. I never said the word stealing. I answered quietly. You did. Then finally, victimhood. The tears. The quiver. I can't believe my own daughter would do this to me. You're tearing this family apart. I let the script run. I'd seen every scene before. This time, I just didn't participate. When she fell silent, I spoke. I'm not looking for a fight. I'm looking for what's mine. I also know where the $400 a month I've been sending you has really been going. More silence. Heavier now, Tessa's credit cards, I said. 3 years of minimum payments. She didn't deny it. She didn't say a word. That was its own admission. Then she played her last card. Even if there was some misunderstanding about your father's policy, That money is gone. I don't have 31,000 lying around. Julia. That's when I used the information I'd been saving. I think you do, I said. The emergency fund. The rainy day account you told Aunt Denise about at Christmas. The one Roger doesn't know exists. The air on the line changed. I could feel it. She'd thought that secret made her untouchable. I didn't threaten. I didn't raise my voice. I just laid out the terms the same way I'd explain a payment plan to a client at the vet office. You have 30 days. If I receive $31,500 by December 19th, this stays between us. If I don't, I'll be talking to a lawyer on the 20th, and at some point, Roger will find out. From court documents, if not from you, what happened to my inheritance and how you've been moving money around. Her voice went small. But the steel was still in it. You're making a huge mistake. You'll regret this. You are destroying this family. I thought of everything that word family had meant the last few years. Me paying, me driving, me showing up, them taking dot maybe, I said. But I regret the last 3 years more. Goodbye, Mum. I hung up. My hands were shaking. My heart was hammering. Mark came out of the bathroom with Lily wrapped in a hooded towel. Her little hair spiked up. Her cheeks flushed and happy. How'd it go? He asked. Ask me in 30 days. I said. He didn't press. He just handed me our daughter. I held Lily against my chest and realized something important. If it came down to it, I'd rather she have no grandmother than that grandmother. If anything in this story resonates with you, hit that like button and subscribe. It tells YouTube to show this to more people who might need to hear it. Let's finish this. The next 30 days dragged and flew at the same time. No calls from Brenda, no texts, no how's the baby. Nothing. Louisville went completely silent. Every afternoon, I checked the mailbox like a teenager waiting on a college response. Only instead of hope, I felt the kind of grim curiosity. December 17th, nothing. December 18th, nothing. I started a list of estate attorneys in Louisville. I wasn't bluffing. If there was no check on the 19th, I was dialing every number on that list on the 20th. December 19th, around 4:30 in the afternoon. The mail truck finally clattered up our street. Inside the box, junk flyers, a utility bill, and one plain envelope with no return address. I recognized the handwriting immediately. The same looping letters that had signed every love. Mom at the bottom of my birthday cards. Inside was a check, $31,500, payable to Julia Carter, signed Brenda Lawson. There was also a small note card, 3 stiff sentences. This money was always meant for you. There was a banking error that delayed the disbursement. I hope we can move past this. No apology, no ownership, just a half-hearted lie about a banking error and an expectation that, now that she'd been cornered into doing the bare minimum, we'd all pretend the rest never happened. I didn't laugh. I didn't cry. I folded the note back into the envelope, took the check to my laptop, and deposited it via mobile banking. Some people might say, if you're that angry, why take the money? Because the money wasn't hers. It was my father's. He worked for it. He chose where it should go. Brenda intercepted it. Depositing that check wasn't accepting a favor. It was reclaiming what should have hit my account. 3 years earlier, the first thing I did afterward was open a $529 college savings plan for Lily. I put the whole $31,500 in. My dad never got to meet his granddaughter. He died long before I even met Mark. But now, his life insurance, the money he meant for his children, will fund his granddaughter's education instead. Someday, when she's older, I'll tell her about Thomas Cole, about a man who worked overtime shifts to take us to the lake every summer, about how he quietly planned for our futures, about how, in the end, his wishes did come true, even through other people's worst decisions that felt like actual closure. But the story wasn't quite over. December 28th, Lily was napping, Mark was at work, and I was surrounded by a couch full of half-folded laundry when my phone rang. Louisville area code, Roger's number. His voice was heavier this time. I need to ask you something, Julia, and I need you to tell me the truth. He'd been doing year-end finances, balancing accounts, prepping for taxes. He'd noticed a $31,500 withdrawal from their joint savings. When he asked Brenda, she told him it was for Tessa. Massive emergency dental work, root canals, crowns, complications, you name it. But he'd looked at their online bank statement and seen the scanned image of the cleared check. It wasn't made out to any dental clinic. It wasn't made out to Tessa. It was made out to me. Did Brenda give you $31,500? He asked. And if so, why would she lie to me about it? I stood there with a dish towel in my hand, laundry forgotten, to pots in front of me. I could protect my mother one more time, smooth it over, invent some nonsense, help her keep the facade intact a little longer, or I could answer the question he actually asked out Roger. I said carefully, I think you should ask her about my dad's life insurance policy, and about an account she has that you don't know about. Something she calls her rainy day fund. Long, raw silence. I could hear the hum of his refrigerator through the phone. Thank you for telling me, he said at last. I'm very sorry for everything you've been through. He hung up. I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel like I'd taken her down. I just felt like I'd finally stopped lying on her behalf. Through Aunt Denise, I heard what happened next. Roger moved out, packed a bag, checked into a hotel, called a divorce attorney. 12 years of marriage unraveled in a week. Brenda spun her story on the family group chat. I had ruined her life. I'd poisoned Roger against her. I'd always been jealous. Always been the difficult one. Tessa left me a voicemail calling me selfish and vindictive and swearing I'd never set foot in her home again. I didn't respond to any of it. I'd already said everything that needed saying with one ultimatum and one check. December 31st, New Year's Eve. Mark and I are big party people in the best of times, and I was still moving carefully, so we ordered Thai food, watched a movie, and put Lily down early. At 8:47, my phone lit up. Mom, I watched the screen pulse with her name. Once upon a time, I would have picked it up on the first ring, stomach in knots, ready to make sure she was okay with me. This time, I looked at Mark. He didn't say a word. He didn't need to. I hit decline, set the phone face down, went back to my pad Thai. The call didn't come again. At my last physical therapy appointment, Connor asked if I had any lasting side effects from the accident. I told him, yeah, I seem to have developed a severe allergy to guilt trips, and cruise ship photos on Facebook give me hives. He laughed. Sounds like a full recovery to me. He wasn't wrong. My leg healed. My shoulder healed. My ribs healed. But the more important thing that healed was invisible and older than any of those injuries. For 3 decades, I tried to earn my mother's love with usefulness. I sent money I couldn't spare. I showed up when she snapped her fingers. I swallowed unfairness until it felt normal. I thought if I overgave long enough, I'd finally get what Tessa got for free. But love you have to purchase isn't love. It's a transaction. And sometimes closing that account permanently is the healthiest thing you can do. Right now, I have a husband who actually shows up. I have a daughter who will never wonder if she's loved. I have a college fund in her name with $31,500 that her grandfather meant for us. And I have a bank app with exactly 0 automatic transfers to people who have proven they don't deserve access to me. Most importantly, I have proof tucked into a manila folder and a 529 account that I was worth planning for. Someone, somewhere, wanted to make sure I was okay. That's the part my mother never managed to give me. My dad did. Thank you for listening to my story. If you're still here, I appreciate you more than you know. If you want to hear more stories like this, there are plenty waiting for you on your screen right now.